Roll call.
Mayor Juanita Goodlay Giron,
Present.
Councilor David G. Romero,
Present.
Councilor Barbara Casey. Here. Councilor Vincent Howell.
Here.
Councilor David A. Ulibarri Jr.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilor Ulibarri. A moment of silence.
A moment of silence for all of us here, so we can open our eyes and see what's going on, to keep our minds straight, to be happy, to be truthful, and for all of you to keep working for the city as hard as you can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I need a motion for approval.
Madam Mayor?
Councilor Casey.
I move approval of the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Roll call.
Councilor Howell.
Yes.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.
Yes.
Councilor Casey.
Yes.
Councilor Romero. I have a motion by Councilor Casey, a second by Councilor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda, Madam Mayor, members of the council, is public input. We have Mr. Marshall Poole on Animal Welfare Coalition City Contract.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Madam Mayor, councilors, I'll make my remarks very brief because I know we have a lot on the agenda today. As many of you know, we're approaching the 5th anniversary of our shelter next door. And we've made a lot of improvements both in our shelter operations and in the live outcome rate of our intakes, and also our organization itself. And we're in the process of renewing the contract here with the city. What we're asking for is a few items. One, a sole source designation, if that's possible. Number two, a 4-year term on the contract, which will help us raise money from foundations and other granting organizations. It'll also help us as we begin to establish a capital account, a capital campaign that would help finance a new shelter for our city. Showing a long-term relationship with the city would vastly help that. We're also asking that we tie the contract to the Consumer Price Index, which is what many contracts are tied to. Last year that was 2.39%, but it would of course change each year, up or down. And then because we haven't had a contract amount increase in the last 5 years, we ask that the first year we increase the annual amount by 2 times last year's CPI, so that would be about $5,600 for the first year's additional amount. Those are the 4 things we're asking for. As always, we're open for tours next door and any questions that you folks may have. We thank you for the opportunity to run that shelter. We think we've added a lot to its operation over the last 5 years, and we look forward to continuing that relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Poole.
Thank you, Mr. Poole. The next item are the business items. First one is the disapproval of Resolution 18-30 to approve final budget adjustment requests for submission to DFA, Local Government Division, and we have Ms. Tana Vega and Ms. Darlene Martinez from Finance.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the council.
Good evening, ladies.
The Finance Department is requesting, in order to meet DFA regulations and New Mexico state statutes, approval, disapproval of Resolution 1830 to approve the final budget adjustments for submission to DFA for the year 2018. And we are requesting an increase in the recreational center GRT phase 2, an increase of 26, a transfer of 25,000 to fund capital purchases in the 468, which is phase 2 of the recreation center. $1,000 to complete the debt obligations, coming out of, to be funded from cash balance. An increase in the 468 to fund those capital expenditures with the transfer coming in from the Fund 330. An increase of 2,256 for interest and principal for new payments on the interest on debt payments on drinking water loan 3043 to be funded from the cash balance of 2,256, and an increase in the senior center for a total of 6,661. They received additional funding, and they had in a state grant and a decrease in some of the other areas, federal grants.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions or comments? Okay, continue. Thank you very much. No questions.
Approval of resolution 1831 to approve.
Wait, we
we
need
have to
approval of the resolution. I'm sorry.
I thought you were going to go through the whole process.
Sorry, we need approval of the resolution
Okay, sorry.
18-30.
Okay, so what is the pleasure of the board?
Madam Mayor,
Councilor Casey.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of Resolution 18-30, the final fiscal year 2017-2018 budget adjustment request.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Counselor Udine Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Howell?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Howell. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Now continue, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The next item on the agenda is the approval or disapproval of Resolution 18-31 to approve the final 2017-18 DFA financial report for submission to DFA Local Government Division. And Ms. Vega, Ms.
Ms.
Martinez.
Vega, please continue.
The following DFA quarterly report is our final for the 2018 fiscal year. We have the actual reconciled cash balances on the face of this recap, and we have included the increase, the proposed increase of the 6,661 increase in budget. And Finance Department is requesting approval of the following, of the enclosed quarterly report.
Okay, questions, comments? Councilor Howell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Vega
Yes,
and Ms. Gallegos, is the lodger's tax budget, is the 5% increase included in that?
yes,
Okay. When did the 5% increase
take place
start?
July 1st.
July 1st. Were all of the hoteliers informed of that?
Yes.
Because I understand there were some concerns.
There was
on-
a delay in the information.
I'm sorry.
I understand there was a delay in the lodger establishment being notified. However, it was the resolution was posted on the website. Or approval. Yeah, I became aware of them not being notified the middle of, about July 15th.
Right.
Right.
Okay, was the resolution posted on the website?
The resolution that was approved?
Approved, yes.
It was ordinance, wasn't it?
Or it was by
When-
ordinance.
when was
It has
that?
to be by ordinance, right.
So the ordinances are
Yeah.
on the website, yes.
Okay, so it was posted.
Ordinances
It
are
was posted.
Okay, gotcha.
In addition to, it was discussed, I understand, in lodgers tax meetings.
Okay. Because some of the hoteliers received their notices in mid-July,
Correct.
and they did not receive any notices prior to that.
That's what I'm aware of, yes.
So how, are we helping them with this situation?
We have addressed the situation. They have been notified, in addition to us providing them the revised lodgers tax report.
Okay, so they have to pay starting when?
August 1st.
August 1st.
Yes,
Okay, that's been resolved.
that's been resolved,
Oh,
yes.
thank
sir.
you. Okay,
You're welcome.
that's what I wanted to find. Thank you. On this budget that we're going to be sending in, the Public Works budget, how much,
Are you talking about, I'm sorry to interrupt. The capital project funds, what line item are you?
my question is the road repairs. Do we have enough budget monies in here to take care of some of the major concerns of our roads?
May I answer?
Mm-hmm.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Councilor Howell, this approval for Resolution 18-31 is for our final year-end closing.
Oh, for the
Yes,
close-
sir. And we will address the final budget
On
at
the-
the next, with the
Okay,
next.
I'll ask that question.
All right. Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Olivari.
No comments.
Okay, thank you very much. What is the under board? What is the
Madam
pleasure? Councilor Romero.
I move to approve Resolution 18-31, final 2017, 2018 DFA financial report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Counselor Howell?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Casey and Counselor Olivari Jr. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Council. Continue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The third item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of Resolution 18-32 to adopt the final FY 2018-2019 budget for submission to DFA Local Government Division. And this is also due by July 31st, 2018. Ms. Vega, Ms. Martinez. And this will be where we can review that question, Councilor Howell.
I know that was the last question.
Right. I apologize for making
no.
the error from previous.
That's all right.
That's okay. Continue, Ms. Vega, thank you.
The final 2019 budget will be presented to Mayor and Council in late July 2018 for final approval through the resolution process. The 2019 budget hearings with Mayor and Council and Department Directors and Managers was held on May 24th, 2018. Any updates, additional grants awarded, and/or carryovers to the preliminary 2019 budget will be included in the 2019 final budget. In the general fund, we have projected revenues of $11,311,044, an increase of $508,011 from 2018. And this increase is due to increased GRT and property taxes that were received on a cash basis during the fiscal year 2018. We continue to monitor the revenues and report to Mayor and Council on a monthly basis. Cash balances are continually being monitored daily. However, actual balances are available and are part of the final 2019 budget. We did not recommend or plan for any furloughs, modified and abbreviated work schedules for any employees. One position was funded for the fire department, which has been titled Building Inspector/Deputy Chief. We have included in our final budget a 4% increase for health, dental, and vision insurance for the employer as requested by Self-Insurers Fund. We are reviewing job descriptions in the pay plan. At a later date, we will bring that to Mayor and Council for their review. Personnel increases other than the 7-cent increase that is part of the ordinance. Contract negotiations with FOP, Fire, and ASME are in progress. We experienced a decrease in workman's comp insurance and plan for the same deductible cost for 2019. Total salaries and benefits projected for the year for 2018 were 14,795,294. Total salaries and benefits projected for the fiscal year 2019 is approximately 14,619,000. This is 29% of the FYI 2019 budget. FY. FYI. Total
For your information.
for your information.
Right.
Sorry, I was on a roll there. Total number of employees total number of employees is 266. And the city of Las Vegas is continuing negotiations with FOP Fire and NASME. The critical capital projects for this year are the rehabilitation of Bradner Dam, the State Police Building remodel, and the co-op project. There are no planned rate increases in any utility other than the cost of living adjustments. These will not be available until later on in the year. Total debt for the city of Las Vegas is $23,137,990. $5,041,740 in governmental funds, $18,096,250 in enterprise funds. The increase in enterprise funds was the financing of the Story Lake acquisition through NMFA. Changes and recommendations to the 2019 final budget include an increase in expenditures in general fund to include building inspector, deputy chief position, utility increase. Those are the utilities the city departments would be using. An increase in building, structures, and land, and additional increase in audit costs. Also included were the 3 grants awarded to the police department, an aviation grant award to include a partial runway for the airport. Senior Center was awarded an additional grant award for additional programs for senior programs and a recycling grant award to a tire cutter. Additionally, will be requesting an additional increase in the general fund for a $2,000 U.S. Marshal grant the PD received. We received the award letter on the 25th of July, and we're unable to include it in this document, but we are requesting to include that in this document.
And how much was it for? I'm sorry.
2,000.
2,000.
Okay, questions, comments?
I got a question.
Councilor Oliveira.
On the tire cutter, is that for, are we collecting a lot of tires that we need to cut tires off and process them?
I think Maria Vilveri could answer that for us.
Mayor, councilors, Madam Manager, the Environment Department, I believe, is the source of that grant, and we'll be allowed to purchase a tire cutter, and we will be using it we'll come back to council. We will be using it to shred all the tires that we're currently receiving from the community that we have to charge I believe it's $5 per tire to dispose of. That's our cost, so we charge the customer the exact same cost. This will greatly reduce that. So we will be shredding all tires that customers are bringing into us. We're going to try and get more tires in so we get them off the streets and off the properties. We'll be able to reduce the current fees that we're charging customers for tires.
On the tire cutter, is it a shredder or is it just a cutter?
I believe it's a...
It should be a shredder because, I'm pretty sure that I had met with some people because I have a business, a junkyard business, and I do process a lot of tires. Mm-hmm. And a shredder, because you can use a lot of the material like in parks and stuff like that.
And that'll be part of our SOP. We're going to look to see where we can use the materials. We'll have to buy an extra piece of equipment that pulls the metal out, the bands out of the tires, so that we can just shred the rubber and use the rubber. And we'll find places to use it, whether it's with the city parks, whether it's schools. We're going to reuse the material. So we won't have to dispose of any of the materials after they're shredded.
Well, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other questions, Councilor Casey?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. For the money that we have not expended between December and June 30th on a full-time attorney. Has that money rolled over into the 2019 budget?
No amounts in the prior year roll over other than unexpended amounts, other than grants. And we just start a new fiscal year with new budgets. And of course, whatever, at the levels that were budgeted in the prior year, normally are budgeted in the current year with a slight increase.
So what happens to that money?
Well, the money never gets spent. It's still in your cash in our cash
It's in
balance.
the cash balances?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And Mr. Poole had requested, I think, before, and I can't remember exactly when, that they do receive an increase. So is there an increase in the
Yes,
budget?
on the second page in the general fund, the increase, the following increases have been included. And some of them are specific, and some, like for the other professional services. And we put some money into the building, structures, and land, which could also be utilized to, we do line item budget request throughout the year, and we are in negotiations with AWC.
Okay, so it's still in the process of
It's still
being
in the process,
negotiated?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there's still hope. And also with AWC, will they be designated as a sole source? And I ask this because I think in the special audit, and I don't remember the nonprofits that were listed, but it did specify that nonprofits that provide services to the city should be listed as sole source providers.
As long as they have a federal certification that they are a nonprofit and you can donate. And if you can make a tax-deductible donation. However, when I talked to the special auditor, he did say, did you look elsewhere, and he did not state that we could use them as the sole source.
Oops, I need to interrupt, but I believe I read somewhere that he was discouraging sole source.
He was discouraging, and the state discourages sole source, if at all possible. But if we do sole source, we do have to post it on our city website for 30 days with all the relevant information. And if no one protests, then we can go ahead and award a contract.
Okay. And then when we went over the preliminary budget, there was $68,852 for the step schedule for the police department, and that money remains in there?
Oh, yes,
okay.
yes.
And then I was really concerned about the fire department with such a low entry-level pay of $8.45. Was there an increase to that anywhere, or is that still being negotiated?
We have not included that in this budget. We are still waiting on, we're still in negotiations. So as Ms. Gallegos stated earlier during the preliminary, we spoke about attempting to increase the pay plan, and currently the HR department is working on updating the pay plan in addition to job descriptions. And we're hopeful that we will get something in place.
I'm really happy that we're getting an assistant chief / whatever the other
Building
was.
inspector.
Yes, thank you. But I'm also concerned that, is there any money anywhere for the replacement of fire trucks? Or will we be going to the legislature for that kind of funding, or what's the plan?
We may be reaching out to the legislature in addition to, currently the fire department does have a NMFA loan, and there are 3 years left on the principal. So, and interest, and if we were to pay that and renegotiate a new loan, I think it would be feasible to obtain a new
role for the
a new
fire
fire truck.
truck. I had a constituent that called me about the transfer station and was concerned that there's a lot of, like dried leaves and twigs and branches and things like that. And I remember from my notes that I took at the preliminary, I can't even talk either, preliminary budget meeting, we talked about the lack of a suppression system at the transfer station. Is there any money for that included in the budget?
Did we include that?
Yes, Mayor, Councilors, that is that's the #1 project for solid waste this year. And we will be putting in a fire suppression system. We're coordinating with the fire chief on an appropriate fire system for that facility and the materials up there. In addition, you mentioned the green waste, the dry green waste. That's away from the buildings. And the Environment Department gave us some direction on putting fire breaks in to make sure that it was separated from each other, and we're continuing to work on trying to dispose of that. That's elm trees, oak trees, a bunch of trees that over time, and along with materials that have blended together, and it's going to take a long time for us to get rid of that, but we're working with NMAD on removing that.
Okay, so we do have money there in terms of...
Yes, there's money. If you will note on the DFA quarterly report, the solid waste had ending cash balance for 2018 of $2,489,869. And then we have the proposed revenues, transfers, and expenditures with the ending balance proposed at $2,835,000.
Okay, my next question is, our transit system, I believe when the folks there did their presentation, they mentioned that gasoline costs are going up. We get 8 miles per gallon, and it's probably going to double in the amount of money that it's going to cost. So is there enough to cover anticipated increases in
There's
fuel
enough
costs?
to cover the anticipated cost. In my review of the financials and to determine what line items were overspent and where we needed extra money, the line items that were noted was there was a very slight increase in auto fuel, and our utility line items were a little overexpended from what had been budgeted. I don't know if it was P&M's had an increase or the city. Did the city have an increase last year?
Yeah.
Utility rates.
Yes, yes. Yes.
So it was a small increase, and so I did note that, but the auto fuel was not extremely overspent.
And my last question, in the municipal court fines, we have $65,000 that goes to the general fund. How much of that, does any of that go to the court automation fees or whatever they're called?
Nothing that is recorded in the general fund is court automation. Court automation and judicial fees are held separately, and those are forwarded to those two organizations with a separate.
Okay. And don't we also have like a correction fund or something?
We have the 201 that's required by state statute.
Okay, so does some of that money go in there?
In the
court,
when they collect fines, it's fines, court automation. If there's a DWI fee, there's the judicial fee, and then there's always a corrections fee, and those are set by state statute.
Okay, and so all of those funds, the money goes into those funds as that
Yes.
money comes in,
Yes.
depending on what it is?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. And so does the money in the correction fund, can that be used as the same way that the money that goes into the general fund?
No.
No.
The corrections fees is totally for supportive prisoners.
Oh, okay. So that money could possibly accessed by the police department for,
No.
no?
It is for jailed inmates that
Oh, okay.
that they hold for the city.
Okay. Got it. Okay, that's all. And I want to thank you for the nice recap that you did because it answered a lot of my questions that I had. Otherwise, I would still be asking questions.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. It's very nicely done.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Ms. Gallegos, Ms. Vega, and
Darlene.
Darlene, yes, thank you. I also do like the recap. I think it helped me understand the budget more. And I like the way you, in the last page, delineated all the expenses.
I had some assistance from the city manager.
Pardon me?
I did have some assistance from the city manager.
Oh, good, yes. Good work, teamwork. So lodgers tax, instead of lodgers tax increase being in the 17-18 budget, it is in the
Yes.
18-19 budget.
We could not increase the percentage without the ordinance.
Right. The roads situation. Can you let us know what we are projecting to, how many roads we can fix? Because throughout the year, as you know, that we've always heard that our roads are in poor condition. So what's the plan to, and how much is budgeted?
What we did was that would be the street improvement fund, and that's, those revenues are brought in by the gas tax. And so we have revenues that we projected of $919,000. And then, of course, all of our street personnel are funded from that street fund. And so what we're doing right now is we're waiting for the award letter for the King Street and the West National project. We're also looking at possibly looking at the drainage issue on King Street, the complete King Street project, and getting that completed. And that way the drainage is what we really want to work on that project and finalize that project in completion so that we don't have to come back and it doesn't need any additional work on it later on. The other project, we're looking at other projects. We have about 400,000 that we're looking at as far as for improvements, building improvements, as well as street improvements. And those public facilities can talk a little bit more about the projects that they're looking at as well as equipment. Christy, can you talk a little bit about some of the other projects that we've been looking at? Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking at working on Region and Mountain View and the BA, which is another road we're looking at, and we're looking at they're gonna look at all the roads in Las Vegas. They're gonna do a plan where they fix the worst first. So say the west side has the worst roads, we're gonna go west side. It's not gonna be, fix this one, fix that one. They're gonna go road by road.
Are we, if I may, Ms. Gallegos? Yeah. Okay. If you are going to make this plan, are we going to see the plan?
Yeah.
So we can present it to our constituents that here's what that we have planned to fix all the roads, because they need to know when their road is going to get fixed.
You have also a resurfacing project that is going to also get completed, will be done in late May, early June of next year. We have that project that we're looking at as far as the resurfacing of the majority of the roads within the Las Vegas area. But whatever plans we have, of course, would have to come back to mayor and council for approval prior to us doing any major projects that we have. We can't fix all the roads. I mean, 400,000 really doesn't give us a lot of money to fix in all of the roads, but we're going to do the best we can with the dollars that we have.
A short stretch of road is what, about $1 million to?
Somebody just told me that it was $1 million per road and we have 20 miles, so.
Right, right.
So we're continually, we're looking at some of the others.
I think if we have it in a document form showing our community members that we are having a plan to fix the road. If they're not sure on whether or not our road's going to get fixed, then they'll still be concerned. So they need to see it in a document form, so they know that we are committed to get things done.
Counselor, Madam Mayor, Counselor, we just wrapped up a meeting regarding the ICIP plan and what we plan to do. That's going to be coming back to Mayor and Council for review and, of course, approval. You will be the ones who will do the final analysis on the ICIP plan. The ICIP plan is some of these recommendations, some of their recommendations, they'll be changing. They want shovel-ready projects, and so that's what we're gearing to. Is we're trying to get the main projects, especially like Hot Springs and those projects that we have are as part of the ICIP plan. So we'll be bringing that to Mayor and Council. You'll be looking at it, and then you'll be ranking the ICIP plan and the projects in there. It'll be a very compressed listing of projects, because they just don't want to see a wish list. What they want to do is they want to see what we have as far as shovel-ready projects, and that's what we will be bringing to you, I believe, in August.
Okay. I know that we're talking about resurfacing roads, but what about fixing potholes?
I believe we do potholes.
I know I've seen
every other day.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know I see
Yes.
a report coming out that these are the roads that are going to be fixed. Are we going to continue with that? Because that's a good documentation that
Yes.
we can show our community members.
And let me check to see the dates that we do.
We do holidays on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and now we're doing weather permitting now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We're getting a lot of washouts on the west side now. We're trying to keep up with the debris off the main roads.
Okay.
One other interesting project that came across my desk, and I think we're going to have to phase it in, is the D-Bib Industrial Park. That one is looking at close to $900 to $1 million to do in completion. We're going to have to look at that in phases as well, and trying to fix the drainage first of all, and trying to address that, and then move on to the other areas that need to get funded. But we're looking at the D-Bib as being another one of our major projects.
And we have about, what, $400,000?
We have 400,000, yes, and it'll cost us about $1 million, so we need to really phase that project out. But I think the drainage is the most critical area here within Las Vegas and within the industrial park as well. And so we need to get that at least started.
Okay, thank you. Has there been a recycle proposal presented to us or presented anywhere? I guess Ms. Gilberry.
Mayor, councilors, there has not been a proposal presented to you yet. We're reevaluating with the money that we're receiving for our recyclables, with the communities turning our recycle stations into trash cans and health sites as opposed to recycling sites. We're reevaluating, and then we'll present back to the council what our options are for making sure that that process and that project is self-sufficient and that we can continue to sustain it. And right now we're kind of dealing with the recycle center. I had to close the recycle center down at the rec center because it just became a dump. People were just tossing trash everywhere, and it became more of a health and safety concern than a recycle center. So we will be coming back to you with a recycle plan, a very detailed one, and I do not have that at this time.
Well, the recycle center was unmanned, correct?
It was unmanned. It was manned at one time. We don't have it's not bringing in the funding to have it manned. So we made it unmanned, hoping that we could trust the community to recycle, and that did not work. We still have recycle center up at the transfer station, so we're still accepting recyclables, but it's where we have somebody stationed, which is up at the transfer station.
So did we ever receive a grant to move forward on our recycle programs?
I am not aware.
I'm not
of a
aware of any.
recyclable grant.
Nothing from KAB or,
Keep America Beautiful, I don't think it was recycle grant. We're working with KAB to become another KAB site so that we can request funds, but we have not. We're in the process of reaching those levels and those requirements with the federal government so that we can request grants, but we haven't requested anything at this time. But we're working towards that. We'd like to be a KAB community again.
as you know that I've been asking about the recycling program for at least 4 years. And
We were hoping to get it going, but we found a lot of hindrances with the size of the trash cans that were ordered by the previous administration didn't fit our vehicles. The amount of funding or the amount of revenues that we were receiving wasn't meeting the cost of the program. So we want it to work, but we need to make sure that the revenues are meeting expenditures.
so when can we see it?
I can't answer that this time, Counselor. I wouldn't want to even give you a date until I have something more solid.
We have,
It is a passion of mine to get it going, but I need to make sure it's sustainable.
Madam Mayor, Counselor, we have been talking about it, Ms. Galveri and myself, about how we want to proceed with it. But we need to proceed cautiously because it isn't, it's become, as she said, it does become dumping sites. Our recyclables aren't there, and so we really need to look at it, analyze it, break it down, and just see how we can make it work for everyone, including the city, and make it not profitable, but at least let it meet, let the revenues meet the needs and the expenditures that we need to do with recycling.
But in this budget, there's no budgeted funding for recycle.
For the recycle program, there is. We do take
I know-
some funds, so there should be a recycle line item.
Yes, there is.
Well, I know you have it for the tire cutter.
No, there's actually
There's
several
actually-
line items for
you,
recyclables, for the staff, for the materials, to be able to try and continue to develop the program. There is a budget for it.
Could you please tell them what line item that recyclable?
It's a department in the solid waste, Department 5600.
Okay.
And we'll continue to
And
work on
and
it.
it's included under the enterprises, and it's in the Fund 630, where the recycling costs are being budgeted for.
Okay. Another question. I know that lately in the last, I think, a year and a half, this opioid situation has come up, and it's getting more serious and in our community, and it's affecting our community members. Have we budgeted any funding in this budget to support the effort that Police Chief Lopez is,
Sheriff Chief.
yes,
Sheriff.
because we really need to place a focus on this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Howell, that's a good question. Actually, we are in the process of a memorandum of understanding that will include about 5 agencies within the city. Our chief has been working diligently, thank you very much, I have just read the report. And I think that's an outstanding move. And I also like your proposed location for the area. I did check with Mr. Cooper. There is no asbestos in the Legion Park School area, so that was a question that was raised. And I believe that there was some concern about someone not wanting it there in the area, but if you look at the Recovery Center in Santa Fe, it is in an affluent neighborhood in the area, and they have a very tall or large 6-foot wall, and it's really not noticeable. So I think that would be a perfect location. We're working forward with that to move that project forward. I don't anticipate that it's going to happen overnight, but I'm hoping more than a year's time that we will hopefully get funding. The commitments are there with regards to the MOU. I look forward to signing that MOU probably in the next week or so. And then also in that MOU is specific, not in detail about the funding, but our commitment to the project, as well as the county and Centro and 2 other agencies that we So it's a very, right now it's in the infant stage. So we are looking at hopefully getting some funding for it once we have a better idea, and it's going to be spearheaded by Centro, is that correct? Of what the numbers look like. Then the city at that point in time will look at our numbers and see what we can do to work in bringing that opiate center, recovery center to the city.
Thank you. I still, I'm concerned that there's no funding budgeted in it. You know, I know the.
Well, we can't at this
budget-
time because it's just an MOU at the beginning, at the infant stage. So once we get a real plan of the, if they're going to do a complete analysis of this, correct, Chief? Once they get the analysis, then they come back to us with the financials. Once we see the financials, and at that point in time, we look at what we can afford to commit to that project. And that's pretty much what the MOU is doing.
Well, I look at the budget, I guess, differently now. If it's not in there, then we won't be able to place
But we
focus
don't
in
know if
spending
it's
it.
going to come to fruition, Councilor Howell.
But we want it to come to
Well,
fruition.
that's why we're entering
That's
into
what
the MOU.
budgets, to me, I'm just,
We can't commit to a budget that no researcher can back it up, Councilor Howell. They have to do the research. I don't want to argue.
I'm not arguing, Madam Mayor, I'm just stressing my
And that's
input, my concern.
wonderful, but we cannot commit to a budget number at this point in time. There's no financials
that's-
attached to the MOU.
Right, I understand, but I just wanted to make a comment
Okay.
that if we don't have it in the budget, then there's a possibility that we're not going to spend it.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Councilor Howell, we are prepared, Chief Lopez and I, as well as his staff have been looking. We did talk about in department directors, and when we met with department directors and we met with individual departments, he talked about the opioid center. We are prepared. The only thing we don't have right now is we don't have the complete budget. They're going to be going out for possibly legislation, grant money, and anything else that they can get their hands on. We are prepared to help them out in whatever way, whatever fashion. But that'll come possibly in March or in April, and that's why we have we're going to hold back until all of this comes to fruition, and then we'll move forward. And we'll probably be coming back to Mayor Council, of course.
A comment on the Legion Park School. There's been more than one concern from a community member there, and I've brought this out to the group, where there's been, to me personally, about 10 community members there are very concerned about that. The
That will
center
run
being
through
there.
the public input process.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that we understand that.
If I may, Madam Mayor, Council,
Yes,
you know, one of the parts of the presentation I was going to do last week, I wanted to talk about that stigma that's presented with, you know, the opioid crisis and addiction. And, you know, one thing that's important is for us as community leaders to, and this was part of what I wanted to ask for your support on, is when we do move forward, and if we do move forward with the Legion Elementary as a proposed site, is for you guys to be there with us at community meetings so we can educate our community on why it is important. And, you know, the stigma is a lot of people, when you think of addiction, you think of people in the back alleys and that kind of stuff. But really, we're dealing with our own people, our own gente. You know, you're looking at this from the perspective, we're looking at students from our high schools, we're looking at brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles. These are the people that we're trying to help. So it's important that we erase that stigma, and that's a huge part of the problem that we see with this epidemic, is that too many of our communities are trying to hide the problem. So we need to bring it out and be upfront about it. And us as community members, we need to push the initiative and help people to understand why it's important and not, I guess, shy away from it. That, you know, that was one of the parts of this that I wanted to bring forward to the council, to ask for your assistance with doing that, or in doing that. I know, you know, a lot of you have been at the table, and I know you're in the fight, so I would hope we get that support from you.
Thank you, Mr.
I just want to follow up on what he said.
I'll let him finish it.
Okay. Mike, I know that this budget is a plan to address all of the issues that are going to be coming up throughout the year. But my question now is to ask, what is the plan to increase revenues. What is the plan to make sure we have more gross receipts, more revenues coming into our city so we can do more things? Do we have a plan?
Well, you have the option of increasing the GRT, and we've brought that to you several times as an idea to increase the GRT. You've got that. You have that, and that's at 3/4% tax that you can raise. Absolutely. You have that. You also have the property tax, the general obligation bond issues that we can also look at as far as increasing revenues in the general fund. Now, in the other funds, in the enterprise funds, we have the CPI that goes through and increases the utility rates as well. And then, of course, that funds their projects, and that's what we normally do. Now, if we want to raise funds for different things, you also have different avenues that you can do, plus, of course, economic development.
Mm-hmm. I think that I know that the community does not want us to raise taxes. That's the feeling out there. They said we don't need more taxes. So my question again is, what are we going to do to bring in more business? What are we going to do to make tourism increase in our community?
Well, the tourism, I think, is, we had an awesome event just 2 weeks ago. We continue to do those type of events. And we have a staff that I think is planning and continuing to plan those events. I believe our hotels and our motels were sold out for 2 to 3 weeks, which brought in huge revenues, not only to city vendors, but also to the city itself in terms of GRT and in terms of lodger's tax. And so you need to look at those things. We're going to continue to do those things. We can also work with economic development and just see what businesses we have, what businesses are coming in, and what businesses we may go out and seek ourselves. You have Love's truck stop. That place is packed. Mm-hmm. 24 hours a day. You can't get in there. That has brought in tremendous revenue within the last month. And so we're going to continue to look at those things.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Casey,
I just
sorry.
want to follow up on Councilor Howell's constituents' concerns about having people with a drug problem being all in one area. And the San Miguel Family and Community Health Council, some of the members have done research in this particular area, and research shows that in other communities similar in size and even larger communities where those inpatient and outpatient facilities exist, actually the opposite effect is what is taking place. And so
yes,
I've heard those people become more easily integrated into society and start functioning at a higher level and become useful and productive people in the cities. And so I think that people kind of have a weird idea that you're going to have a whole bunch of drug addicts shooting up, sitting on your doorstep, or falling apart in your front yard or something. And as it is right now, you probably have neighbors that live right next door to you who are addicted to opiates, and you don't even know about it.
Yes.
And you have to keep in mind that the majority of the opiates that people are taking are prescribed medications. And yes, there are some out there that, get different doctors to prescribe some kind of opiate to them, and then they sell it so that they can buy something stronger. But that's not the usual case. The usual case is, somebody that falls and has a compression fracture on their back, and so they're prescribed some kind of opiate, or somebody that has knee surgery and they're on an opiate. These are people of all ages. You have kids, you have older people that are addicted to these. And so it's not like you're going to have all these, horrible people hanging out, waiting to rob you or whack you on the head to steal your purse or whatever. That's not the way it is. That's not reality. And so I think that we need to work together along with the chief and other entities that are working on this initiative to get the word out that, that's not the kind of thing that we are looking for, and that we're not going to have that kind of situation occurring. And I think Legion Park is the perfect facility myself, and would be less expensive than other places that have been looked at to bring up to the condition that it needs to be in order to serve the people that it's going to serve. So I just wanted to add that. Thank
Councilor
you.
Casey, I want to thank you for that statement, because I will be bringing back with the chief, in addition to the MOU that we are in the process of entering into, a plan from the chief to the city manager, to myself, and then of course a presentation to the council in support of this. I fully agree that Legion Park is the ideal location for that. I think the chief has made some really solid statements here today about inclusivity versus ostracizing people within our own community. Councilor Casey, you've made some really strong remarks, and I want to thank you and commend you for that, because that's what we need here today. Not only will this provide a service to our youth and our people within the community, but it will also bring in approximately about 80 jobs, is my understanding, to the area, from consulting to daily operations of individuals that we have graduating here through education, through support service staff, we have counselors, and in addition to that, these support services will be there to help these individuals, our youth, our people, our community, to move this community forward and take care of our own community and our own people and our own youth. And I want to thank each and every one of you, because it's really hard when you have someone that is struggling, that you have to take to Santa Fe and you have to take to Albuquerque, because we don't have the support services here. And although we have a minuscule amount of individuals who are complaining at this point in time, or not complaining, but have concerns about the recovery center being there, I would hate to see it lost, because we were not willing to sacrifice at our level. We need to support this as counselors, each and every one of us. So thank you very much for that statement. And I also want to caution from experience in the past, the council for making any negative statements about bringing recovery center like that to any specific area in the community. And the reason I'm saying this is because in the past, when I served on the P&Z committee, there was a statement that was made like that in the committee, and I don't even want to repeat the statement, but it was disapproved, went to the council. The council did not like the decision made by P&Z. I voted against it, but it didn't matter. I didn't have the majority of the support. And it went and it was referred back for further review. It was overturned, but we were then cautioned about any statement that we made against any center of that nature. So we as council people have to be very careful with any statements that we make here. So thank you very much, Councilor Casey. That was outstanding. Any other comments? Councilor Lee.
I just want to thank for the projects that you guys are doing at National and King Street. Just imagine being there half a century, more than half a century. I've been there all my life.
Me too.
Now that the rain's been coming down, they wash us out. Our driveways are down on King Street. Some of the water that's coming down from the hills is washing out the roadsides and some of the residents there. So I'm happy for you guys that are doing that. Thank you for all the staff. You know, it's been a long time. Like I say, I've been there a lot of years, and I'm not saying that the whole city needs to be repaired, all of it. Hopefully, we could get more money coming out of the legislature or CRT, whatever, to take care of our streets. You know, the east side, Commerce. You know, when you live in a small town like this and you see this stuff for 65 years, and you go through a lot of administrations, and then we have this administration that we can do something without having problems. You got to see that. Let's move forward. Thank you for everything.
We're going to, Madam Mayor, members of the council, this instrument, and thank you all for listening to us, because this is the first step of the instrument that goes to DFA right after we get approval. And I believe that we do have a solid plan, and we will get approval from DFA. Then we can start the planning process on a lot of the projects that we haven't done. Perhaps we have the funding available. Perhaps we can do more. I think that there was an outcry on the King Street project for no other reason other than that for the flooding and the drainage issues. I have a picture of King Street when the rains came. That was deplorable. That was very sad for me to see, just as a person, seeing all the flooding that occurred in those areas and in those yards. And I really talked to the staff, and I said, you know what, we really need to look at the whole project and not only parts of it, because if we only do part of the partial plan, it isn't going to work. It's going to get rained out again. And so we really need to finish the project and then move on to the next project. What the next project is, I don't know. But we will continue to work on it. And I want to make a comment to Councillor Howell. The opioid center, I didn't even address it. It'll bring us 80 jobs. How awesome is that? Thank you.
And I'd like to respond to that, Madam Mayor.
First of all, do you have any questions? Okay, let me go ahead.
I'll go ahead and turn it over.
Okay.
Since it's on the same topic.
I just want a point of clarification. I hope my comment, we didn't think it was negative. I was just stressing.
I'm just
the,
making a generalized statement, Councillor Howell, to
Okay.
protect the interest.
I was just stressing the concerns of the community.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Councillor Lemay.
Okay. My first question on the 4% increase on health, is that something the city is taking or the employees are doing on their own? The 4% increase on the health
It's across
benefits?
the board. It's both employer and employee increase, yes.
Okay, the other question that I had, I know the negotiations with the FOP and also the AFSCME.
Fire and then ask,
Yes.
yes.
As I understand, it's, because of the not having a city manager, that's sort of taken a toll in some of the negotiations.
No,
But let me ask this question. Is there a certain deadline that has to be negotiated? I know that the schools, it had to be before the budget was done. If it didn't, then at that time, what we had to do was go back and, let's say there was a 1%, 2% increase, then we had to go back to fix those salaries. Is that possible here? I mean,
The FOP, I believe the FOP is pretty well set. They have a pay scale, but there is no requirement that you have a full-time city manager on any of those union contracts. I am the city manager on a day-to-day basis, and I take action when I need to take action. And so there isn't any type of requirement. The one that we're looking at right now is we're working very hard with the fire department. They have not had a contract, and so we're looking at that closely. Is that correct? And then, of course, AFSCME, we need to do some work on it, and the staff has been doing work on it, but there are not any deadlines. We try to get those contracts negotiated, and I just may go back to department directors and give them a deadline, and what that deadline is, I will speak to them first, because they're the ones who are negotiating. The final contract comes to city manager.
so if the contracts get approved, let's say September, October,
Yes,
there
sir.
will be no back pay, because the fiscal year starts in July.
Exactly, no.
No,
It'll be
just start from that.
it'll be effective the day that they're signed.
And the other question that I had is I know we just approved we had the cash balance from last year. And the question that I had was in the police department, as I understand, some comments have been made now during the bike rally that, they're a burden to the city as far as PD, solid waste. Some of those discussions were made. And, that's, to me, I think they bring in generate a lot of revenue to the community.
They do.
So do we have the budget, to take care of that?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Councilor Howell, yes, we have met with the bike rally on 2 or 3 occasions. They are paying fees They may not pay all of the fees that entail the biker rally, but we've made accommodations to the, especially for the police department, because we knew upfront, police, Chief Lopez had contacted me and had said that he wasn't going to be able to get, I don't remember if it was $8,000 to $10,000 in overtime money for his, for the biker rally. So we made accommodations in his budget for that. We've made accommodations for the solid waste as well. And then public facilities will be, although they won't be there, they won't be present, they will be going out there and checking to see if there's anything that has to get done. So we've made those recommendations and those, and we've accommodated those budgets as well. And that is, it's part of the fine budget, because we did get those.
Could you meet
numbers.
with some of those members, just because, you know, I don't know if
Pardon?
there were some hurt feelings as to, you know, some of the comments that were made, and I think maybe what you just said needs to, you know, be
Absolutely.
explained to them. 'Cause-
We just need to work together, I think. I believe that one of the concerns was that we couldn't get the permit in, the application in, and so we worked with them. We sent out staff, and we've had 2 or 3 meetings with them, and we want to continue to work because it's a huge event for us. That's one of our major events, and so we want to continue it, and we want to make sure that they have what they need, and that also they're supporting the city of Las Vegas. And so we'll continue to work with them.
If I may.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Chief. Thank you.
So, you know, in preparing for the biker rally, you know, we've had issues with, as far as timeliness on getting details from them, which causes a huge burden on not only the police department, but also on the city staff, because we do provide a huge service to them to make this happen. I know in the past we've worked with them and given them deadlines and such, which this year again, they were really pushing those deadlines. So, you know, I had Commander Sandoval tasked to pushing them to meet those deadlines so that way we could properly prepare for this rally. I know from the law enforcement perspective, people don't see all that goes into it, but it's a huge task, especially trying to obtain enough staffing to be prepared for any emergencies that may happen. As you know, most people don't realize it, but it is an alcohol-driven event. I don't consider it a family function. I know it's there's talk back and forth about that, but for us, it's a very serious event which we take very seriously, and we try and prepare very diligently for. And so the more detail we have in advance, the better we can prepare for it. And that's kind of what we're pushing them for. I know as far as cost goes, just for our agency alone, we're estimating about $13,000 in overtime cost alone for our agency. All of the agencies that we've been bringing in to assist us, they're covering their own overtime costs, but we project probably close to anywhere to $70,000 to $100,000 in total cost for security just for the event. That doesn't account for any other cost that's associated with that. So there is a huge cost for the event, and so, you know, for the service that we're providing, we just ask that they work with us a little bit closer, and I know we've asked them in prior years as well. So I know I did push Commander Sandoval to get on them to meet those deadlines so we could properly prepare. And again, not just for the PD, but for the city as well, because I know we have streets and solid waste and a bunch of our city entities that have to also prepare and be ready for what's coming, because it you know, it is set up very similar to the fiestas, and there is a lot of legwork that goes into preparation for it.
And that's sort of the way I compare it, is I think it's, you know, such a benefit, just the way the fiestas are. You know, I think it's such a benefit, so I don't know, I mean, is it cost, you know, fiestas versus the bike rally, is it that much burdensome? Or, I mean, to me, it's a win-win, you know, both.
I think, Councilor Romero, historically, they're different events, and the culture behind each one is very different. And when we initially took over about 2 years ago, the biker rally, because that's essentially what happened, there was a lot of negativity that was being spread out there that the city was not going to support biker rally, which is absolutely untrue. Like a lot of statements that are made out there. But we worked very diligently, as the chief is saying here today, to ensure the success of that rally. although some of the old members chose not to participate, we took the bull by the horns and we made it happen. This year, not only do we have the police, and they have to take, in addition to policing, they have to take additional precautionary measures, which our detectives are involved in. I don't want to discuss that because that's something very private. But then we have, I'm getting to you, give me a second. We have community development, Virginia and her team, who work incredible hours for planning, marketing, making sure the event is get out there, that it's successful, that the people come in. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Marujo, that the event has grown from the time that we have taken it over 2 years ago and has become a great success. But I'm going to yield the floor to Ms. Marujo so she can explain better. Just come on up, please.
Yeah, so just so you know, we have those questions about the comparison of the rally and also the fiestas. Of course, with fiestas, we work year round. We've already started having meetings and everything to make sure that we meet the deadlines that everybody needs. Because everybody needs to make sure that we have those costs and we have that time to make sure we do it. And I believe what you're hearing out there is that we're not working with them, which is untrue. We've been attending these meetings and we've been trying to have this conversation with the rally until about 2 weeks ago. They were finally, invited us to a meeting. They hadn't even had their applications in. And it was a concern to us because, again, they have so much time that they have to meet for grants or whatever to be able to cover the costs of their overtime and also to contact other organizations and stuff that come down to help with the rally. So we've really worked hard to try to work alongside with the rally and with their organization to make sure that we meet these deadlines and that we get everything to every department. Streets needs to know what time they need to close the roads. We need to let the businesses know, when they're going to be closed, when the roads are going to be closed, so that they can prepare for their business around there during that event. We need to, let solid waste know so that they know how many trash cans, when to get them out there, when to pick up, and so there's a whole line of events that happen behind the scenes, and we just kind of were, like Chief said, we're trying to push them to get that information to us in time for us to be able to prepare so we're not doing it last minute and we don't miss something that could cost some kind of safety procedure or something that we might miss along the way. As a matter of fact, to date, we still don't have the complete application from them. And when I left at 3:45, we were still working to be in contact with them to get those final things. We're really working with them to try to make sure we complete the entire process.
Okay, I'm confused because we're waiting on them, but we took it over. So are we taking it over?
There's still parts that they have to do because although we provide all our services, they still have to do their entertainers. They still have to give us site plans. They still have to let us know what vendors they're going to have. And that's another thing because we have to make sure that, Ernest and his team can get out there and provide the right amount of electrical outlets for those vendors. If they need 220 or 110, fire can also be out there to do their inspections. Environmental needs to do theirs. So there's still things that they have to provide. When we say we took it over fiscally, we took over the cost, correct, Anne-Marie?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, the cost, we assessed a cost this year, but I guess the bottom line is there is differences, but we have a very, very strong team here. We all work together. We all try to, we meet, we see what can happen, what has to happen, and from what department. And so I'm very confident with this team, and I'm very confident that we can pull it off.
Okay. Thank you, Anne-Marie. That's sort of what I
and that's what we need to do is we just need to work together. We're going to work together with them, and we're going to continue to give them the support that we need, but they need to meet some of our requirements, and that's fine. That's what they have to do. But we have a real strong team here, and each and every one of the components of the team has to do their part, and they do, and as well as the motorcycle rally personnel. And so we'll continue to do it, and by by this weekend, we will have an event that'll be a very successful event because of all of the components that we
And
put
then the
together.
discussion went into a little more, but I guess I was just, if there's not enough, for the police or that, is there a way that,
Well, the
For
reason
future
that I've
use.
asked them to give you an overview, because I know in the past you've asked for clarification because you're new as a counselor. So if they give you a very clear idea of what has been occurring, it makes it easier for you
May I say
to
something?
understand the process.
Just to, what you were asking about in the future,
Yeah.
would this possibly happen with only our department working this event? We would not be able to put enough security out there. We do what we call mutual aid agreement, which we take the agreements for each agency to the governor of New Mexico, who gives the authorization for them to be here to work. If she decides to next year not let that happen, we're stuck with 34 police officers to man 15,000 people coming into our community. That's where we gotta start weighing the options, if it's safe for our community to have it here. And that, we haven't met that yet because we've been working with getting the other departments here and it's been working out. I've got 36 people coming in from across the state tomorrow and all those mutual aid agreements have been signed by the governor and we're good to go. So, all that has to happen 2 weeks before they turn in their planning event. So that's what it entails for the security aspect of it. We've been working together and just letting them know, they do need to make sure they get those in time so that we have the right amount of time to make sure we meet all security measures and everything else that we need to provide.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Virginia.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. This is the last item on the agenda, and I want to see what the board, Councilor Casey.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 18-32, the final budget adoption for 2018-2019.
Counselor Romero?
yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Howell?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Howell. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion carries.
Before we adjourn, I want to thank Hannah, her administrative staff. I want to thank Anne Marie and all the staff that was involved in the preparation of this budget. This did not come down solely by the back of Hannah, although she carried at least, I think, 55%. The rest came from the directors and your staff. Thank you very much for an outstanding job on the budget. I anticipate we're going to get, also in addition to that, a very good audit this year as well. So thank you for all your hard work, your determination. Stay focused, keep working, and don't let anything distract you. And I want to thank the council also for approving the budget. Thank you very much. And have a good evening now.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I will adopt your motion to adjourn. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.